أهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر wnzk راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge.
Good morning, everyone. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis. Welcome to a new program on Radio Baladi on US Arab Radio. Today we are discussing a very important and timely topic, which is the community activism around the travel ban. And with me this morning discussing this important topic are Amber Khan, who is actually a communication strategist. She's a consultant and expert in community activism and also communication and strategic communication in particular. And Mr. James Stowe, who is the director of the Office of Human Rights in Montgomery County, Maryland. Amber, thank you for being with me on the show this morning. I would like to start with you. Thank you for joining us on Radio Baladi on US Arab Radio for the very first time.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I'm glad to be with you.
Thank you so much. So I will start with you for our listeners maybe who are not too familiar with the implications and the significance of the travel ban. Really, who does it affect and why should we be concerned about it?
Well, the travel ban that is essentially the presidential executive order that was issued has been it was directly impacting individuals who were from 7 countries, and that ban was impacting the ability of individuals to travel in and out of the country without citizenship. And even those with citizenship were being and had been held for secondary questioning. The ban itself was challenged, as many may have heard in the news, and yesterday the latest development after the Ninth Circuit Court essentially suspended the implementation of the travel ban because of the litigation that is underway. The president held a press conference yesterday and announced that he is rescinding the executive order. So that suspends the litigation and will be introducing a new executive order, most likely next week. Some advocates have suggested that it may come as early as this evening. He seems to have a tendency for a Friday evening executive order drop. But there is if not today, a strong expectation that it will be next week. And in terms of your question, who does it impact? I mean, it impacts all of us, to be very candid. It impacts every community in this country because the travel ban seeks to create another layer, another barrier for individuals who have obtained visas to legally enter the country. So the travel ban, in how it's going to be rolled out next week, our expectation is that it's going to be written in a manner that will be more suitable from a legal perspective in terms of the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause, but it is also expected that it is going to include more countries than the current 7 that were listed in the previous order. And most likely it's going to include, as many have suggested, a country that is not a Muslim majority country. to kind of withstand the scrutiny of the original challenge, was that the ban itself was a ban on Muslims traveling from Muslim-majority countries.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for this clarification, Amber. And I will now move to you, Director Stowe. Mr. James Stowe, you've been with us before on U.S. Arab Radio, so welcome back to our show, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Now, for those listeners who do not know enough about the Office of Human Rights, we did have you before on the show and you explained to us some of the most important duties and functions which the Office of Human Rights in Montgomery County carries out. But my question is, for those maybe who are not U.S. citizens, those who maybe do not have the, all the legal documentation in this country, can they still seek help from the Office of Human Rights? And if so, what can the Office of Human Rights offer in terms of services or protection or advice for these people?
Well, let me just say very quickly that we, number one, do not ask that as part of our information gathering process. We do not ask about your citizenship. That's not one of the things that we require at all. And so then if persons who are living here, as we are finding out, many persons have been here a long time, not just within a few days, a few months, even a few years in some instances. So there are persons who have jobs, there are persons who have homes and or apartments. There certainly are individuals who go to and from various places of public interest and so forth. So all the various things that we in fact cover, public accommodations, housing, employment, all related to discrimination, would certainly be available to any person that we may be thinking about in this conversation. So if persons believe that they've been a victim of discrimination in those three areas specifically, by all means they have the right to come to our offices and seek the same kind of redress that they may be able to gain in other places as well. And so that clearly would be one of the areas. The other area I suspect that people may not be as much aware of is the area of intimidation. If, in fact, they feel that they are a victim of intimidation, that means by a single person, by a group of individuals, or even by the institution like the county, as it relates, that too falls under our jurisdiction, and that person would be able then to come to us and file a complaint, and we begin the process then of investigation. So all of the various services that are available to anyone would be available then to persons who may be, in fact, here without documentation and so forth. That, again, is not a question that we ask, and so that would not be something they need to be fearful of in coming to our offices.
Right. So whether they are here as, U.S. citizens, whether they're here as permanent residents, whether they're here on travel visa, or even if they don't have the necessary documentation at hand, they can still seek help if they are in fear of discrimination or intimidation or any other issue that they might be grappling with.
That's correct.
Okay, so in terms of the travel ban in particular, which is really the topic of today's discussion, you have been, of course, monitoring the whole thing and witnessing what has been said in the media and in different venues about the travel ban, and specifically it's affecting, of course, those who are from Muslim-majority countries, specifically these 7 countries, but then, maybe that's going to expand to other countries as well. And as Amber said earlier, there may be a new executive order also. In terms of human rights, as specified in the U.S. Constitution, some people have seen this as an infringement on people's human rights in terms of coming to the country, in terms of traveling, in terms of leaving, going, coming. What is your comment on that in terms of the human rights implications of such a decision?
Well, clearly that there are some First Amendment rights and so forth and so on that have been talked about in terms of that and other terms of our Constitution. But just cut through all that. It's just not American. It's just not how we do things. It's not about the Statute of Liberty. It says, bring me all of your poor, your outcasts, etc. We offer that as a entree to this country, a country of immigrants. It just does not make sense. It's just un-American, first and foremost. And I think that what we see people reacting to all across the country is that theme. And so then, in my opinion, very simply, all the president had to do was just to continue, which we think was a federally restrictive ban already in place, that President Obama had in fact instituted. And as you may know, that he had been tapped as the deportation president because he had done so much in terms of trying to eliminate those who were not here illegally and were here in situations situations where they were either causing problems in communities, causing crimes, etc. That was already underway. And so what I would have thought would have happened is to strengthen the existing executive order and that was already in place. And that at least was able to look at the dreamers as an example, those who are children of those who may be undocumented, not bothering and sort of dealing with that whole issue. Because what has occurred as a result of all of this, at least here in Montgomery County, has been a level of fear in not only the Muslim community, but also in the Latino community and other communities where persons have come to this county here in Montgomery County, Maryland, to live and to carry out their lives. And just unnecessary in terms of the kind of anxiety that we see that is played out in every community almost across our county. And the other side of that is that our children now fall prey to all that's going on as well, both those who are the children of immigrants and those who are here from across the world, and now their classmates, because, again, they don't understand what's going on. And so now we're getting back and forth, a conversation, and almost to a bullying sort of environment for many of our kids. It's all for the purpose of carrying out a campaign promise. It just does not make sense. It's un-American.
And going off this point, Amber, as a member of the Muslim community yourself and also as a mother who has children in school, this last point that Director Jim Stowe mentioned about, the idea of bullying in schools or feeling intimidated. What is your take on that? What are you hearing from members of the Muslim community and also your own concern as a member of this community and as a mother? How would that impact these areas and these communities?
So, let me just pick up from that, Sahar. I think, the question that you're asking is that how does this impact the American Muslim community or immigrant Muslim communities and kids and parents? I mean, it is disheartening. It is disappointing. And it is raising a level of concern about the values that are shared across our communities being under attack. And the point that was just made about the culture that we want to not only protect and uphold, it is extraordinary how in less than 30 days the president has not only engendered a level of fear, but has really sought to use the power of his office to divide us and to raise suspicions because of our national origin or our immigrant story or our faith and the conscience and beliefs that guide the way we live. And, Mr. Stowe said this is not the American way. It's not the American way. And for the American Muslim community, I think that this has provoked a variety of feelings. I know for myself, my family, we are Muslim, but through marriage and through our extended family, we are an American family. I have members of my family who come from every different religious tradition, who are Hindu and Jewish and agnostic and Baptist, and it is just this feeling of being singled out, this feeling of being targeted really runs counter. And I think the outpouring of support, the willingness to rally, the other communities of faith, and not just in Montgomery County but around the country coming together, is actually I don't want to say a silver lining because I don't think there's anything good about dividing communities, but I think that it has provoked us to recognize that the liberty and the freedoms that we value and cherish have to be defended. And it's disheartening and it's concerning, but it is also a reminder that these things that we have taken for granted, being able to talk about and identify as people of a faith community puts us at greater risk for a hate crime, has really engendered a level of fear and concern, but equally, I think, a sense of empowerment that we even though we are feeling this way, Sahar, we are not without power. We have our voice, we have our relationships, and I think, what I have seen last night, 40 unity vigils, including one that I had the privilege to be a part of in downtown Silver Spring in Montgomery County, took place where Muslim and Jewish women co-led a service that attracted members of every faith community, and it was absolutely inspiring and heartening to hear us together celebrate each other's traditions, the universal values that we hold dear. And I took my kids. I had my 17 and 10-year-old with me, and there were other parents and families who brought their children and who were not Muslim, but they wanted them to see that we need to celebrate, we need to stand up for each other. And it's not simply about rejecting something, it's about standing up for the values of love and recognizing the human dignity and each person, and that was extraordinary.
Absolutely. Let's come back to this very important point about community engagement and community activism right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them one or two benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
Life for Relief and Development is a nonprofit charity that has been providing humanitarian aid and development to people and communities regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background for over 22 years. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life rushes to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Life also has development projects to provide medical relief, water purification, educational programs, relief for orphans, and much more. Your help and support can greatly improve these efforts. All donations are tax deductible. For more information, please visit our website at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's lifeusa.org, 248-424-7493.
Are you going to start a restaurant or a grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM and wdmv 700 AM.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, and we are discussing today community activism and the travel ban. And with me this morning discussing this important topic are Amber Khan, who is a community strategist and an expert and a consultant on strategic communication, and Mr. Jim Stowe, who is the director of the Office of Human Rights in Montgomery County, Maryland. Right before going off to this commercial break, we were talking about the importance of solidarity and community engagement and community activism, which really, I mean, Amber shied away from using the term silver lining. I would say really it's a silver lining in the middle of this cloud, and the only here, the good side coming out of all of this bad has been people standing up with and for each other. Director Jim Stowe, as Director of the Office of Human Rights, you've also been engaged with different community groups and initiatives, including the Faith Community Working Group, which brings together faith leaders from different faith communities standing up with and for each other. And can you give us some bright examples of some of these examples that have been taking place recently and some of these initiatives?
Well, one of the things, and of course, the South Khamis, you are a part of this, you know, just directly, but one of the efforts has been the Montgomery model, and this has been underway, by the way, long before the ban happened. This is a plan for which incorporates not only our interfaith leaders from across our county, but extends itself into those involved in health and human services, our police department and other safety forces, and links our Homeland Security Department as well. All those that are involved and engaged in ways to be a resource to the community in the event that we had an act of intimidation, an act of hate, an act of extremism, our community would be already assembled in ways that could be helpful to those who may be victims, helpful to those who may in fact be caught up in all of this, and also helpful in the general community in restoring some sense of calmness in the event we had such a disruption. So that's already underway, and it's an ongoing, and it's a very, very beautiful thing to see. As a matter of fact, my understanding is now that some 40 countries from around the world have come to Montgomery County to understand how this Montgomery model works, and to have some sense of how they might be able to take away from it certain elements that they themselves in their own homelands might be able to put together something very similar to what has occurred here. As a matter of fact, there is now underway a effort that would be region-wide and maybe even nationwide, utilizing this Montgomery County model as well. So that in and of itself is an opportunity to see that we don't find ourselves either unorganized or certainly not well-equipped to deal with any issue that might occur. So I think that's pretty important to talk about and share with your listeners. The second thing, of course, is some of the activities that I think Ms. Collins already talked about in terms of how we look at this in terms of the kinds of grassroots, the people that are coming together just because. The initiative that took place last night is just a beautiful thing, and I'm just applaud Ms. Hahn also for bringing together her children and others who did the same thing, because they need to know, need to understand. So those kind of activities are popping up all across Montgomery County. And as a result of that, we're starting to build these strong coalitions around these areas of interest in our community. So those are going on as well. And another thing I think is most important is the fact that our county executive, Mike Leggett, and also our president of our county council, Roger Berliner, both came out with a very strong statement that acknowledges again the position of Montgomery County as it relates then to immigrants coming to our community, those who are already part of our community, just reaffirming our support, reaffirming our overall theme of this being a county that is welcoming to all persons from around the world. I think that was essential and that is critical. We also heard from our superintendent of public schools, Dr. Jack Smith, to also echo the similar kinds of sentiments as far as Montgomery County Public Schools is concerned. And then lastly, Chief Tom Manger, who is over our police department, also reaffirming the way in which we would actually deal with individuals in the event that there was an arrest, how that might happen, and how, in fact, that might engage others who might be involved with the federal government, et cetera. So the whole relationship was described and reaffirmed that we are, again, a welcoming community. We obviously will uphold the law here in Montgomery County, but to the extent that we are carrying out duties of another agency, in this case a federal agency, that is not, in fact, our responsibility, and that has been so stated and reaffirmed. And lastly, Director Rob Green over in our corrections department also talked about how we deal with individuals who come through our central processing point, and that is within his particular department. Those who are arrested go to a central place to be processed, to be put into the system, as it were. And again, there was this notion that we do our jobs here in Montgomery County and work toward that end and uphold the laws here in our own state. And so those are the kinds of affirmations that I think have gone out across our county, far and wide, that I think were critical to all members of our community to understand really where we are. And while we're not, quote, a sanctuary county, that is not the role we take, but clearly we are a county that we're calling it as one that's just welcoming again, and word was said over and over again because it's what we feel, and that's certainly what's being certainly stated and reaffirmed. And we're a place where those kinds of issues and concerns we count paramount in people living in our community.
And I remember, as a member of the Human Rights Commission myself, proudly serving as a commissioner on the Human Rights Commission under your leadership, Director Stowe, and I'm so happy and proud to be part of this great commission on human rights. I remember we did hold a very important event in Veterans Plaza in downtown Silver Spring, even before the travel ban was passed. After the inauguration, it was called Standing Up for the Montgomery County Way of Life. So basically, the event was about showing solidarity and unity between different, cultural, ethnic, racial, and religious communities across Montgomery County. It was a great show of solidarity and support, even before passing the travel ban. So I guess it's very important to showcase these bright examples. And Amber, when you mentioned the vision, go ahead.
One last point real quickly, and then certainly you move on. But one of the things we discussed at that juncture, at that event you're describing, Dr. Khamis, was this. It was less about what we were against, but more about what the Montgomery County was for. And that's what we really put our energy on. Our energy is, here's where we are today. Here's how we live our lives here in Montgomery County. Here are the things that you, as a person who lives within the borders of Montgomery County, need to be clear about as to how we exert ourselves, our belief system, our culture. All these things are wrapped up in these kinds of activities and events. Again, not about what we're against, but what we are for.
Very much what we are for, very much so what we are for, like standing up for Director Jim Stowe, in applauding you for taking your children and joining the vigil last night in downtown Silver Spring. And both me and you are members of the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, and I never miss an opportunity to tell our listeners about the importance of this particular group. If you can briefly tell our listeners a bit about why such an effort like Sisterhood of Salam Shalom is important in general, but why it's particularly important now.
Sure, and yes, the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom is a national organization that operates on a very simple premise, that it's not simply about vocalizing affirmation for the values that we believe in that's going to defend those values. It is about sustaining and building relationships with each other, and when we form those strong relationships in which we respect each other and recognize the humanity in each person and really understand how our liberation is tied up in the other's liberation, then we are able to stand up together more powerfully and effectively in our own communities, in our families, in our own houses of worship, to build not only bridges of understanding to end bigotry and anti-Semitism and anti-Muslim sentiment, but to forge understanding and appreciation for the relationships and for the members of our community. And for, as you know, Sahar, between Muslim and Jewish communities, this is a critical place of work where we often do not have these points of experience. We may see each other, but we don't know each other. And when we are challenged, when one segment of our community or one people are challenged, that feeling of responsibility to stand up for each other really is cemented and strengthened by building these kinds of authentic relationships. And that's what the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom is about. And it is also about educating the participants, Muslim and Jewish women and their families, about the shared intersections and the universality of many of the traditions, as well as recognizing where the differences are. This isn't about, oh, we're all the same. It's about respecting the fact that there are places where we diverge and celebrating the places where we converge. And the experience of having those relationships, I think, in this climate, you asked the question, what's happening in the world. I mean, the sisterhood started 3 years ago, had, I think, between 5 to 10 chapters that it began to kind of develop in 2014-15. After December of last year, after this election, the demand, the desire, the hunger to form these connections, these real connections, not on Facebook, not on Twitter, not on social media, but real connections, has really been exploding in a way that has been exciting. And we have over 100 chapters, 148 in formation. There are over 1,000 Muslim and Jewish women on a waiting list to join chapters around the country. So, the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, I think, is to continue. Mr. Stowe reflected on in Montgomery County, which is a very unique place, I think, special. I'm proud to call it my home. Is a place that can be a model, but I think that in places where you don't have the civic and community leadership affirming through resolution and practice and investing resources, the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom and organizations like it create a place for individuals within the community to mobilize and organize themselves, to build the relationships so that when there is a need to stand up, when there is a need to affirm or to reject, they are there and they have each other's backs. Because coalitions come and go if you're not sustained by the relationships that you build with each other. And that's something that I think is a really beautiful outgrowth and I think a contribution of the mission of the Sisterhood. And I'm proud to be a part of it.
Absolutely, I'm proud to be part of it too, and you indeed mentioned a few important points, the importance of recognizing both our similarities and differences and learning from both of them. And we did have this excellent nationwide conference with the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom in December, which was in New Jersey at Drew University, and it drew more than 500 Muslim and Jewish sisters, and there were banners and slogans saying, honor God, say no to anti-Muslim bigotry, and there was the stand up for the other pledge, no matter which faith community, which racial, ethnic community I belong to, I promise if I ever see hate speech against members of other communities, I will speak up and I will stand up with them. Amen. So that's a very strong message. And we'll come back again to this very important point of solidarity and community activism right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
There's a cool vibe in Detroit these days, the same vibe that's at Marygrove College. We've got great career-oriented degrees that will put you on a path to your future. On campus and online, why not explore Marygrove? You could start college this spring. Go to marygrove.edu or call 313-927-1240 to get more information. International students pay the same rate as domestic students, and let us empower you.
مع أقوى الأفلام مدبلجة.
يمكنكم مشاهدة قناتي ذي ألوان ذي أفلام على ديش نتورك أو على سلينك بلاتفورم.
الدنيا مسرح كبير على ذي أفلام، لذا عليك أن تصنع قصتك بنفسك.
From India.
ذي ألوان ستبهركم بكل حصري وجديد.
ذي أفلام دخلت بيوت جميع عشاق بوليوود، وذي ألوان لونت عالم بوليوود. لا تفوتوا مشاهدة أجمل الأفلام على ذي أفلام وذي ألوان.
يمكنكم مشاهدة قناتي ذي ألوان ذي أفلام على ديش نتورك أو على سلينك بلاتفورم.
It's never too early to get your child on the right track. From their first words to first grade, Dreamy Children's Center in Troy works closely with parents to provide an experience that goes beyond early education. The highly qualified and experienced staff use a variety of programs that can help nurture important personality traits like responsibility, independence, problem-solving, motivation, and respect. They also have educational programs ranging from preschooling for infants, toddlers, transitional toddlers, and pre-K to Montessori-approved programs and bilingual curriculums for young children. They're open from 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., can provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner with snacks in between, and can also arrange for after-school pickup. Dreamy Children's Center in Troy is located at 37373 DeQuinder, just above 16 Mile Road, and can be found on Facebook at Dreamy Children's Center. Ask about the free preschool program. Call today, 248-680-9170, 248-680-9170.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM and wdmv 700 AM.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, and we're discussing today a very important and timely topic, which is community activism and the travel ban. And with me this morning discussing this important topic are two distinguished guests, Director Jim Stowe, who is the Director of the Office of Human Rights in Montgomery County, Maryland, and Ms. Amber Khan, who is a community activist and strategist and an expert on strategic communication. Amber, before going to the commercial break, we were talking about the importance of solidarity and community activism, and we gave the example of the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, and we talked about other initiatives as well. One of the things I am sure is happening now is what is called rapid response teams, and these are basically groups that are intersecting and really gathering people from different racial, ethnic, and religious communities to come together and form these rapid response groups, including the group called YROC that both of us are members of. If you can please kindly give a quick idea to our listeners as to what this is all about.
Sure. I think that the point about the importance of rapid response goes to the need for communities to invest the time and energy to connecting individuals in the community to opportunities of engagement, as well as giving them information, whether it's related to a travel ban or whether it's related to debunking rumors that may be flying around on social media. And also in terms of creating a space and channeling opportunities for individuals to know what is the most strategic issue they need to focus on. And to be able to do that effectively, we need to be able to have coordinated actions. And YROC, I believe, is one of, the models that's out there, which is creating a space for leaders within the community to be able to identify and share information about the challenges that are coming up from the community, to look at the reality of what challenge is happening, whether it relates to, hate crimes or hate incidents, whether it relates to discriminatory policies that may be, in the process of being implemented, whether it relates to potentially a serious shift in the way in which we approach immigration or community policing, on a whole range of issues. These kinds of quick shifts that happen because of policy or events that are, I'm going to describe as shock events, they become disorienting. And it's very difficult to quickly assess and identify in the moment, where is the most appropriate place for me to contribute? People are feeling overwhelmed, and I think that for leadership and for community leaders and civic leaders, having a rapid response network is intended to create a coordination mechanism to share information, make decisions about how to work together and where to focus efforts, and then to share that information and lead communities. And I think that the rapid response work that YROC is doing, bringing together multi-faith communities across traditions and civic leaders and lay leaders within those communities is a critical service, and it's also something that needs to connect to other coalitions. So, so how we're talking about the travel ban impacts, the current travel ban, which has been suspended, impacted individuals from 7 countries. Those 7 countries have their own community networks, their own mechanisms for sharing information. If you are Somali or from Sudan or Iraqi, you have different networks in which you gather and share and disseminate information, both to first generation as well as to the community members who stay connected. We cannot assume that simply reaching the faith community is the only way. So what I think is critical about, or thinking about when we step back and look at engagement and being able to respond, it's having the faith-based community is one of those critical pillars, but it's also creating the connection to the community organizations and the other mechanisms in which people gather and communicate and share. And it's through that coordination, right, that we challenge and dispel the feeling of despair and lack of empowerment. I think it is also critical that through those channels we educate each other, because the truth is that there is a lot of confusion about what the different rules that have been implemented and the implications, and it's really important to address the fear with actual facts and information, and offering those resources in a timely way is absolutely critical for us to not only sustain the community that we have, but to ensure that the most vulnerable, and the most marginalized members of our community are not falling literally through the cracks and not being seen. And so the objective, I think, that we need to be mindful of when we think about what do we need to do, it is truly to kind of recognize and identify who needs to be at the table, who is impacted, and who needs to be at the table, who cares, and who should care. And then when you build that table, we are able to share information and really counter and dispel some of the negative challenges that we face, especially in the form of unjust policies that threaten to deny the human rights and dignity of members of our community. And I think that this is going to be critical next week, because many legal scholars who have looked at the ruling and the opinions issued in the litigation predict that this administration, next week, we're going to see a travel ban that has more countries, and most likely is going to have some countries that have non-majority Muslim populations. And what that means, right, is that those communities may not necessarily right now be connected to some of the organizing that's happening. And so, again, building these relationships is really important, and that takes time. But it's worth the investment.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no question about it. And Director Stowe, one very important aspect in all of this is always the legal aspect. Where can people get legal advice if they need help, if they need to be in touch with an immigration attorney, if they are arrested, or if they are under the threat of being arrested or deported, or they have any kind of legal issues or concerns? What would be some of the resources or the places where they can actually seek help and find the right advice?
In Montgomery County, there are a couple, and of course, CASA is the one I'm going to mention that many people may know, particularly those who may be from the Latino community. There'll be those who will be able to call them directly and be able then to seek their services. They have all the things you just mentioned. We have just opened our Gilchrist Center for Immigrant Resources. That would be a place for both individuals who may be Muslim as well as Latino and from other places around the world, but they also can go to get additional information and resources. While the legal aspect, I don't know that it's specifically covered, but there are opportunities for persons to go to the Gilchrist Center and then be referred then to someone who might be able then to help with that very special and very important legal matter. And so those are two resources in Montgomery County. There are others. But what one can do is to start with those two first. and depending upon what your particular level of interest is and point of view might be, and connectivity within the community. And then from there, they then have all the resources available to them. As a matter of fact, just last week, we met in Silver Springs, as it turns out, and all of these providers that I'm mentioning to you right now, at least two of those persons I mentioned, but others that were there in present for this conference, all heard the affirmations from, again, Ike Leggett, our county executive, and Roger Burden, our county council president. And all were able to hear this, but more importantly in the room were individuals, as I mentioned, from a provider perspective that learned and got up to speed with all the various things that were going on in Montgomery County, many of whom worked together on a daily basis, and some of them did not. And so I really want to reaffirm the position that Ms. Hahn had talked about in terms of the relationship that's so critically important, but even within the legal community, because that's the other thing, too, that came up as well as a part of that conference, is to have that reservoir, that complement of legal folks willing to step up in forms of, again, donating their services to this purpose and to this cause that really need to happen. So that challenge went out to those in that room last week, and the hope would be then that this is picked up on by the Bar Association and others in Montgomery County to create this pool as well. So all that's going on simultaneously. So these are points of interest and contact for individuals, but more importantly, the call went out to make real sure then that we do have this solid, determined, and committed legal community engaged in this process as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for this important point. And we'll come back to this important point about the importance of legal aspects in this whole process right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
أسواق زمزم الواقع على 24065 أورشد ليك في مدينة فارمington هيلز ترحب بالجالية العربية والكلدانية. تنزيلة كبيرة على عموم المواد الغذائية في يوم الأربعاء من كل أسبوع. لا تنسوا فريش كاري اوت، جميع انواع المعجنات، وايضا صواني الكامبو المشكله والصمون الحار، لحوم حلال الجاليه العربيه والاسلاميه، الملحمه باداره قصاب الجاليه المعروف سلوان جربوع. زوروهم على 24065 اورشد ليك في مدينه فارمington هيلز، او اتصلوا بهم على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمذاق عنوان لجميع طلباتكم، اتصلوا على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمعامله الراقية وكرم الضيافة عنوان.
استوديو زرياب بإدارة حسن حامد في ستوي هايتس يحييكم ويقدم لكم خدماته بالصوت والصورة، تسجيل، تصوير، مونتاج، فيديو كليب، إعلانات، كوميرشالز، دوكيومنتري، أفلام وثائقية للترويج لبضائعكم ومحلاتكم وشركاتكم، برامج تلفزيونية وإذاعية. استوديو زرياب وبتقنية عالية بإدارة حسن حامد 313-945-8860 313-945-8860 أو 248-761-5787. استوديو زرياب، الصوت والصورة اختصاصنا.
قشات ميديترينيان ماركت بإدارة سهر قشات وأولاده يرحبون بالجالية العربية والكلدانية. جميع أنواع المواد الغذائية، البان طازجة، الكرزات والبهارات الطازجة. داخل الأسواق مطعم ميديترينيان شيش كباب يقدم يوميا جميع أنواع الكباب، المقبلات العربية العراقية وصواني الكامبو المميزة. تفتح الأسواق من 8 إلى 9 مساء من الاثنين وحتى السبت، ومن 8 صباحا إلى 9 مساء يوم الأحد. تقع الأسواق على 32839 نورث ويسترن هايواي في مدينة فارمington هيلز. لحوم حلال للجالية الإسلامية، لطلباتكم من المطعم كول 248-538-7855. That is 248-538-7855. قشة ميديترينيان ماركت، خدمة متميزة ومعاملة راقية.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arabs, WNZK 690 AM and wdmv 700 AM.
And with me this morning discussing this important topic are two guest, Ms. Amber Khan and Mr. James. Right before going to break, we were talking about the importance of the legal aspect. And indeed, lawyers in different areas around the country trying to help some of the people who are affected negatively by this travel ban. One of the groups is called Karama, which is a group of Muslim women lawyers who try to help Muslim in terms of navigating difficult legal. Amber, would you like to comment on some of the legal efforts that have been conducted in this domain, and if you know something also about the work of...
Okay, great. A couple things. Karama is a wonderful organization. It's a national organization that provides legal resources, and they have a limited number of folks available to assist in helping individuals with specific types of cases. And I think that they are absolutely one critical resource and have provided, I think, a lot of clarity on not only understanding human rights issues, but Muslim women's human rights issues, clarifying it for particularly women coming from Muslim-majority countries where there has been a lot of competing information and also challenging information, and understanding how to reconcile understanding of family law as well as issues related to human rights. Karama has done a fantastic job in contributing to that body of knowledge. And Aziza El-Hibri, who's the founder of Karama, is one of my personal heroes, just in her work and leadership as one of the pioneers, women kind of lawyers in the legal community, creating a bridge but also building understanding. Another organization that I would encourage, especially for folks who are not in an area where you have a lot of legal resources, an organization that I actually helped co-found, Muslim Advocates. It's muslimadvocates.org. They have worked with the Center for Immigration Rights at Penn State to produce a handy one-page guide to help you quickly identify, some of the realities under the travel ban. And they also provide links to resource networks that you can, if you need to hire an immigration attorney, if you fall within a category, to be able to access those resources, to find a lawyer that is versed and an expert in this issue. And that's the point I want everyone to hear really clearly, Sahar, is that lawyers, when they graduate from law school, then can focus on a variety of different areas. But the expertise of understanding the nuances and the ruling changes in immigration law and the procedural differences in immigration law is quite distinct from contracts or from working in family estates or family law or divorce. And I think especially for individuals who have status questions, it is absolutely critical to, if you're going to engage lawyers, engage legal counsel with expertise in immigration. And the American Association of Immigration Lawyers provides referral networks, but I think organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, which has a network of immigration lawyers that provide services at the state level in terms of being able to connect individuals in need, organizations like Muslim Advocates, Karama, and then their local immigrant organizations. If you are, for example, an Arab American, or you are from a country of origin where you don't have a legal resource network, reaching out to, as Mr. Stowe pointed out, organizations like CASA, Latino and Latino legal organizations that provide support. And then a third resource, if you're in an area where you don't know where to go, law schools are a fantastic resource because immigration professors at law schools often have a connection to local counsel as well as clinics that may be able to provide pro bono support, particularly for community members who have very limited resources. And that's a resource that I also want to identify and kind of just give a call out to that many folks don't think about. And there are many, many amazing professors, law professors, who focus and care passionately about immigration, who in this current climate have stepped up in a way that has just been incredible. After the travel ban, literally hundreds of immigration professors, immigration law professors around the country were coordinating and working together to provide counsel, to identify potential cases, and to support the enormous volume of cases that were filed to halt and stop the travel ban from its implementation. So when you're thinking about legal resources, three key things to remember. Not every lawyer knows immigration. Ask the question, do you have expertise in this area? Ask for evidence of that experience. The second is go to organizations that are working with experts to provide the best, most accurate information. And the Arab American Institute, the Arab American Anti-Discrimination Committee, both those organizations as well have done a tremendous amount in terms of producing information and translating it into Arabic. Muslim Advocates, Karama. And then the third is to always ensure that you're aware of your status, especially for kids who may be young adults, Sahar, who come to this country with their parents under their parents' status. It's really important for young adults who may not know, if you don't carry a passport, you don't have documentation, to ask and to ensure that you understand what your status is. Where are your documents? If you were a naturalized U.S. citizen, where is that document? Do you have a copy of it? Are there others who have it? And I think that it is really critical, especially in this climate of uncertainty, for each individual to be as informed and for us to work together, particularly in our communities, to connect each other to the resources. But those are three key pieces that I would recommend folks look at.
Indeed, these are very important points, and thank you for bringing this up, Amber. I really appreciate it. And finally, one very quick last comment from you, Director Stowe, in 1 minute, because that's all we have left in the program time. Do you think that all of this effort in terms of community engagement and activism and all of this, organization and so on, can really be the tipping point? Can it really change the way things are going and the direction that all of this is heading to?
Well, yes, it can, but I think it goes back to one of the points that I think that Ms. Hahn made early on in her comments, and I'm going to go back to that because it's about relationships. So I'll say it in this way, a bit of an admonishment, but also an encouragement. The admonishment simply is this: we cannot wait until there's another burning issue that somehow or another rallies our humanity. We've got to stop that. It's a vicious cycle that we cannot, in fact, continue, in my opinion. And then on the encouragement side is that when, in fact, in this issue, I am just so pleased to see then that we did rally. We did come around. We did kind of cross lines of indifference, cross lines of culture and religious and philosophical, all kinds of areas where we, in fact, have some point of departation. And came together on some of these issues. But my goodness, we've got to find ways to sustain beyond the highs and the lows of the world and the things that happen in it. And so I'm hoping that this may be a new start that is, in fact, in a place where we truly are building a relationship. So when it comes time then for the rapid response, when it comes time then for the interventions, when it comes time for all those kinds of things, we're not coming into it brand new. We're coming into it already with established opportunities to really do something positive and impactful. Then I think what we're doing then can have a huge impact, not just for those of us who live in today's time, but also for Ms. Hahn's children. And I think that's what we should be talking about.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more with all of that. I think these are very, very important points. I think that, as we said earlier, the silver lining and the light at the end of the tunnel in all of this has been community activism and solidarity and people standing up with and for each other. And at the end of this program, I really would like to thank both of you so much, Director James Stowe, Director of the Office of Human Rights in Montgomery County, Maryland, and Ms. Amber Khan, Community Organizer and Communication Strategist and Consultant, for being with me this morning, and also for all the great work that both of you are doing out there in the community. Thank you so much.
My pleasure indeed. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks to all our listeners.